Hello and welcome to the Three Questions podcast, where we dive deep into the world of wealth management and connect you with industry experts. I'm your host, Wayne Baxter, Senior Executive Manager at One Capital Management. If you or someone close to you is concerned about the impact of digital identity theft, you are not going to want to miss today's episode. We're going to address the three questions high net worth investors should ask about digital identity theft. Thank you for taking time to check us out. And if you enjoy this episode of the Three Questions podcast, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our podcast and YouTube channels. Having a digital identity has intended to provide us with a secure and scalable means to authenticate our devices and users. That said, digital identity theft can be a serious financial consequence. Recovering your identity can be a lengthy and complex process, and victims may experience a violation of their personal life and ongoing fear of that recurrence. So on today's Three Questions podcast, we're going to address the three questions high net worth investors should ask about digital identity theft. Joining me from New York City is Justin Sellars. He is the Director of Private Client Services for 360 Privacy. Justin joined 360 Privacy after a 20-year career with the New York Police Department. He's also a proud 911 responder and a veteran of the United States Coast Guard, and he's also a former New York City paramedic. Justin, thank you so much for making time for us today and joining the Three Questions podcast. Great to see you.
Nice to see you, Wayne. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, and thank you for your service, by the way, as well. I should also mention that. Now, here's something else we should also share about. Justin had a role in the famous January 15, 2009 Miracle on the Hudson. Maybe you just want to tell us a little bit about your experience with that. That's quite the story.
Yeah, Wayne, it was
legitimately a miracle.
Yeah, it was quite a day. I wish I could say we actually had to do more. Well, I'm glad we didn't have to do more than we did, other than secure that plane. Obviously, Sully got that plane in the water, and by the time we got there in about 15, maybe 20 minutes. The passengers were out. They were getting onto ferries and local tugboats. There was a fireboat there as well as another police boat before I got there. So the evacuation was well underway with some minor injuries. It was literally a miracle, but just to be part of that was something special. Just to see that plane in the water was wild. But I'm happy it turned out the way it did.
No kidding. Sort of a different story than your experience with 911 and. But search and rescue was a big part of your role when you were with the police department. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So I spent after doing some patrol in the 113 precinct, I did do most of my time on the water in the harbor unit. A little bit different role as a police officer. We did some search and rescue was a big part of our job. As well as dignitary executive protection. So if you picture New York City, the president comes in a lot. We have dignitaries from other parts of the world, and they all fly into that Wall Street heliport. So we provide the security zone when the president or the Pope, we had the Pope visit twice while I was there, and then we provide a waterfront escort to wherever they're going. So it was always fun to liaise with Secret Service or whatever foreign dignitaries were coming in and their security forces and help be part of that entire protective detail. So very proud to say that I was able to help do that for 4 of our last 5 presidents. So it was great.
Well, once again, thank you for your service. That's awesome. And, before we get to our 3 questions, perhaps you could just take a little bit of time to talk about 360 Privacy, and who they are and who do they serve?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Wayne. So 360 Privacy, the whole team here is made up of either ex-Army Special Forces who were attached to the NSA, law enforcement officers like myself, or executive protection professionals. So everybody here had a physical protector role at some point in their life, or they were digital targeters for the NSA, really going after the bad guys and the terrorists in that we all have been hearing so much about these last 20 plus years, unfortunately. So what we did here at 360 Privacy, our founder, Adam Jackson, was working a protective detail for Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn, the country music
Hmm.
singer, yep, as well as Jason Aldean, and they kept getting doxxed. So doxing is somebody using your personal
Yes.
information
Yes.
against you nefariously. Figured out who was doing it, sat down with her and said, listen, we're not going to press charges, but show us how you're getting the information or open up these bank accounts, push out these fraudulent wire transfers. And the answer was data brokers. So these data
Mm.
broker websites, they have a lot of your PII, or personally identifiable information. And for either a free trial or a $15 a month subscription, I can get up to and including the first five of some people's social security numbers, as well as home addresses, personal cell phones, relatives, really a digital pattern of life and a digital family tree, or a deep dive into these people. So what we do here is we remove that information not once, not twice, but every single day. Think of it as digital whack-a-mole, because once you remove it, it's going to pop back up again. So that's us.
Amazing. And I can verify because actually, when we were talking, doing some, we'll call it show prep here,
Yeah.
uh, we actually proved it to be true. We could actually look up a name and find way more information you would think.
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty wild. Yay, America. We sell everything, including your personal information.
Well, one other thing I would think about is that I would imagine that, artificial intelligence has made digital identity theft even more challenging. I can't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So the AI landscape, Wayne, AI is the buzzword of the past year or two. Everybody loves saying it, but it's becoming an issue. I've seen, if you can team AI up with some of the information you could get from these data brokers, you really think you're talking to the other person on the other end of the line. It's a problem, from anywhere from blackmail to extortion. Somebody saying, hey, I have your child, I need X amount of money, and you sound like them on the phone, it's an issue. So yeah, moving forward, things are just going to get a lot more complicated.
Well, I'm really glad I have you as our a guest today, and I'm looking forward to us going over our three questions. So let's get right to them. The three questions high net worth investors should ask about digital identity theft. That's our topic today. Question number one, and this is from the lens of a high net worth investor who is all of a sudden find out that they're in the crosshairs of a very unfortunate situation. So question number one, how did I become a target of bad actors?
Yeah. So Wayne, it's really a culmination, or it could be in many different ways. One thing we always see is if somebody was either mentioned in an article as being higher net worth, in a news article or a newspaper article, an SEC filing. So things like that are publicly available, right? Those are things we can't prevent from being out there. But that being said, there are ways you can go about helping to mitigate that risk before that is being out there. A company going public, simple things like people living in certain neighborhoods, and then they're going on these data broker websites to see what other properties you own. So if you own properties in Manhattan, Miami, and Monterey, California, you probably have some means, right? So things like that. The bad actors don't have to be that sophisticated to be able to say, okay, I think this guy's worth putting some time into, this guy or girl, and let's corroborate a little bit of information and see what we could get out of them.
And you'd have to think that social media would be like the ultimate runway to that information as well. The way what the kind of information you post online
Yeah,
yourself
of course, Wayne, and not only you, but you have to worry about your wife or husband or spouse or partner and
or
children, right?
kids.
Yeah, the kids are a big one. If you're on vacation on a yacht, or you're traveling around the world and the child is posting this all the time, that's raising some red flags, right? That's a big weak link in the chain, that we always tell our clients, listen, and it's easier when it comes from us, the third party, rather than the parents. Maybe you guys don't want to be posting all this information, or maybe don't take a picture in front of your house. It's a larger home in a certain neighborhood. Things like
Right.
this. It's unfortunately the world we live in, where we have to think about everything we're putting out there.
Or even maybe even broadcasting where you are.
That's a very big one, Wayne. We had a client a few weeks back, maybe about 2 months ago now. They were a pretty famous singer, but they're posting a picture outside of their hotel. And unfortunately, one of the fans said, I recognize that traffic circle. They were in Italy. Let's go say hi. Meanwhile, it might have not started out as nefarious, just a nosy fan, but it just
Sure.
attracted everybody. So we were able to get in touch with their security team, and they actually moved that principal from the hotel.
Man. Okay, well, I think being a big sports fan, I would say what you're telling us here is that the best offense is a good defense here.
That is correct, sir. That is correct, Wayne.
That's the way we're going to look at it.
Yep.
Uh, well, okay, so excellent information on question number one. How did I get exposed to these bad actors? So the second question, which I think is an obvious follow-up, is what legal remedies do I have to combat these bad actors? Like I'm now being a victim of these perpetrators. What can I do? Like
Yep.
what remedies do I have?
Yep. So to your point, Wayne, right? The best offense is always a good defense. But that being said, there are certain states and areas of the world that are starting to recognize this problem, right? So from legislation against data brokers, which is something that's coming down the pike. Locally, I don't think it's going to be nationwide because it's too big of a business. One of the major car companies about 5 years ago made more money selling consumer data than they did cars, if you could believe that. So, yeah, that's a problem.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's big business. Now, as far as legal remedies, if the bad actor is in the United States and they are harassing you or doxing you, that is, there's federal laws as well as state laws against that. Now, there's a lot of things that have to happen before anybody could act on that, right? So it has to be deemed harassment. You have to involve law enforcement, and then they actually have to say, okay, this crime did take place. So that is one way, and that's going to be more driven by the local jurisdiction rather than federally as much. So if you're in New York, let's just say that, and somebody's harassing you online and posting your home address, yes, that is a crime. Now, if you are in other parts of the state or country, California's coming out with this thing called the CCPA. It's the California Consumer Protection Act. This is recent within the last 2 years, and they're supposed to give you easy opt-outs from these data brokers. Okay. So you're supposed to say and say, hey, listen, I don't want my information there. So you should just arm yourself with your local laws, knowing going in if you are a victim of this or if somebody did post your information online, with the right remedy for the situation. That's really it. And then, of course, there's always civil possibilities. This has happened previously where there were two opposing political parties, and one person ousted another for being a part of another one. And they kept getting harassed. They actually sued the person that made that original post and did get monetary damage. So, it spans the gamut. But like we said before, the best offense is a good defense.
Which kind of gets segues into our third question, which is, what can I do to help prevent myself from becoming a target?
Yep. And that's Wayne. Unfortunately, the answer to that question changes every day, right? So, which is always it's a moving target.
I'm
So
not
there are,
surprised.
yep, exactly. There are steps you can take. We always say step one, if you're a professional, if you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, do not put your home address on your license
That's a
information.
given.
Okay, you would be surprised how many people we
Seriously.
see, yep, that have their home address on their license information. So unfortunately, that is now public record, and now we know where you live. If you are buying properties, make sure you put them in the right kind of trust or in the right kind of entity name that is no way attributed to you. You would be surprised how these data brokers will, it could be in an LLC, the property, but then you look up the LLC and who's the officer? It's the principal, right? So that is an issue. So make sure you're doing things like that when you're going out to restaurants. I personally I don't give out my real cell phone number. There's apps out there, and you could look. They will um, generate as many free phone numbers as you want. So if you're signing up for a rewards program, or if you're signing up for, let's say you're going to do an open table reservation, you have to put in that phone number. Or if you want to get a text with your receipt, go on one of these apps. They're $8 or $9 a month, and they will give you as many fake phone numbers as well as email addresses as you want, and they will filter everything to one place. They're actually great, very good in protecting yourself going forward. And then of course, like we said before, the social media stuff, even your LinkedIn profile, somewhere you wouldn't think, right? So if you go and look at mine, it'll say New York City metropolitan area. It's not going to say I live in this neighborhood, okay?
Mhm.
Corporate bios on websites, another big no-no. He went to this college, married to this woman, have these kids, he's on the board of this school. Um, Talk about, giving somebody a quick entry into or peek into your life and kind of knowing where you're going to be or associated with this private school or associated with this non-for-profit board. It's, or if you the often the weak link is the spouse or the children, to what we said before. So the more you can distance yourself from everybody else in your circle, I think the better off you are.
Be interesting. I can hear the response of some people say, well, nobody's really going to follow
Uh,
me, right? Exactly. This is it. This is not some, this isn't my problem. This is somebody else's problem.
yeah, yeah, exactly, Wayne. I mean, just for an instance, I'm sure everybody's following the Palestinian Israeli conflict, and in New York City, they what they did was they found a museum and a few non-for-profits that were associated with one side or the other. And they went to the board member's home and spray painted some anti-Semitic graffiti on their house
Mhm.
because they were able to figure out that board member was attached to this organization and lived here all through data brokers. It's pretty wild. So you might think it's not going to be you, but you never know what tomorrow brings.
Okay, so something else comes up here I just thought of right now. I probably should have thought about it sooner, but better late than never. So,
Yeah.
as you know, this podcast is watched and listened to all across the United States and Canada.
Yep.
So, I got folks all the way from Vancouver Island to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and in between that are watching and listening our conversation today. So if somebody from Toronto, for example, reached out to you and said, "Hey, heard what you had to say on the Three Questions podcast," could they hire you to look after their data to help with protect their digital identity, or do they have to
Yep.
be a resident of the States?
So it does depend on the nation. I don't want to say the United States. The data brokers do cross the borders of many countries. Um, Over in Europe, GDPR is a little different. They do have a little bit more of a stringent consumer protection, in place than we do here. But that being said, the deep and the dark web span no boundaries, right? So the dark
Sure.
web, there is no law that governs the dark web. So the dark web, for you, those of you who don't know, is basically the anything you can't find on Google. It's the illegal marketplace on the internet. So
Right.
that's where they sell all your data. Once you hear about these data breaches in the news, they go there, they sell your socials, your home addresses, your credit card information. That's where that information goes. So the sooner you find out that information is there, the better off you're going to be. Just for an instance, here at 360 Privacy, I don't know if you guys all heard about the AT&T data breach a few months back.
Certainly did.
Yeah, I'm sure. Exactly. So we were able to identify that breach and alert our clients that their information was out there about 2 weeks before that even hit the news. So early identification of the information that's out there is very important.
So just great information again. And just to confirm again, given the role that you play, whether you're living in Southern California, Pacific Northwest, Miami, New York, or even in major cities across Canada or across Canada, you would be able to help them with protecting their digital identity.
100%, Wayne. And we will always take a look and do a deep dive into what's out there on you, what your vulnerabilities are. We can do something called a threat vulnerability assessment, which will kind of give you an overview of what's out there and how we can help mitigate the risk.
And this isn't a one, and again, the key thing to remember here is that this isn't a one-off transaction-based relationship. This is an ongoing service.
Correct, Wayne. Yep. And we're very high touch. When you opt out of these data brokers, you're opting out from today backwards. Anything forward is fair game. So as the information starts to repopulate, to hit it down again and again, like a digital whack-a-mole. So every day as it pops up, that's what we're doing. We're taking it down again. It's a daily monitor and removal.
This is fascinating. Well, I'm really glad that you took the time today to join us. Before we wrap things up here, Justin, is there any final thoughts for anyone and everyone, quite frankly, listening or watching today? Any last words you want to pass on?
Yep.
Now that we've got everybody's attention.
Yeah, I'll say this. If this is very important, and we didn't touch on this, but I'm going to touch on this now. If somebody is soliciting you for information, do not give it up. Whether it's a text, a phone call, email correspondence. There are so many fake emails, texts, phone numbers that can call you that look very real and convincing, that look like from your financial institution. Just say thank you. I'm going to call my financial institution, and go to the branch, call a trusted person you have over there. It happens too many times, these phishing campaigns, and you end up with a monetary loss.
We've included your information on the screen. The folks that are watching, they'll be able to see it. For those who are listening in, could you share what is the best way for them to contact you? Because I'm sure people are going to want to.
No problem. Thank you. Yep. My email is jsellars, SELLARS at 360privacy.io. Best way to reach me, just shoot me an email. Any questions on any of this, please, even if it doesn't pertain to something you heard here today, but if you have an issue, I'm more than happy to answer anything.
Justin, really appreciate you. I can see you. We can probably have you back another time, and we'll nail down something even more specific than what we talked about today. Thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Wayne. This was awesome. Thank you.
Justin Sellars joined us from New York City, and he is the Director of Private Clients with 360 Privacy. I look forward to bringing you the 3 Questions podcast, and I hope you find them educational and informative. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to our podcast and YouTube channels. And to receive notification of when our latest episodes have been posted, please click on the notifications bell. And lastly, to schedule an online Zoom consultation with me to discuss your wealth management needs, please click on the link in the description box below, www.onecapital.com/meet with Wayne. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.